Imagine a world where Earth plunges into a second ice age. How would humanity cope with a planet gripped by eternal winter? Today we're exploring what life on Earth would be like if the planet was once again encased in ice. Could we survive the cold, or would this new ice age mark the end of civilization as we know it? To understand how an ice age could begin, we first need to know what causes them. Ice ages are periods of long-term reduction in the temperature of Earth's surface and atmosphere, resulting in the expansion of continental ice sheets, polar ice, and alpine glaciers. But what triggers these monumental shifts in climate? The Earth's climate system is incredibly complex, and even small changes can lead to drastic effects. Several factors can lead to an Ice Age 1, orbital changes. Earth's orbit around the Sun isn't a perfect circle, it's more of an ellipse, and it changes shape over tens of thousands of years. These changes, known as Milankovitch cycles, affect how much solar energy the Earth receives. A slight reduction in solar energy can lead to cooler summers and gradually build up ice sheets that eventually cause an ice age. 2. Volcanic activity. Large-scale volcanic eruptions can release massive amounts of ash and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. These particles can reflect sunlight away from Earth, leading to a cooling effect. If the eruptions are frequent or intense enough, they can contribute to the onset of an ice age. 3. Ocean currents. The world's oceans play a crucial role in regulating climate. Changes in ocean currents can disrupt the distribution of heat around the planet. For instance, if the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, a major current system, were to slow down or stop, it could lead to significant cooling in Europe and North America, potentially triggering an ice age. 4. Asteroid impact. Some scientists speculate that a major event, like an asteroid impact, could throw the planet into a deep freeze. An impact would throw up huge amounts of dust and aerosols into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and causing a rapid drop in temperatures, enough to start an ice age. But what if we suddenly found ourselves thrust into another ice age? How would that change our world? If a new ice age began, the changes would be swift and severe. Imagine waking up to find that temperatures have dropped drastically overnight. Snowfall becomes relentless, and soon vast ice sheets start expanding from the poles towards the equator. The consequences would be visible almost immediately. Major cities in the northern hemisphere, like New York, London, and Moscow, would be buried under thick layers of ice. Roads would become impassable, buildings would collapse under the weight of the snow, and daily life would grind to a halt. Oceans would freeze over, especially in the higher latitudes, drastically altering marine life. Fishing industries would collapse as sea ice spreads, and the delicate balance of marine ecosystems would be disrupted, leading to the extinction of many species. Global weather patterns would shift as well. The jet stream, a major driver of weather systems, would become more erratic, leading to extreme weather events even in regions far from the expanding ice sheets. Tropical storms might weaken due to the overall cooler temperatures, but winter storms would become more intense and frequent. For humans, the immediate impact would be devastating. Crops would fail as growing seasons shorten or disappear entirely. Food production would plummet, leading to widespread food shortages. This would be particularly severe in regions that rely on staple crops like wheat, rice, and corn, crops that require relatively stable, warm climates to thrive. Energy demands would skyrocket as people struggle to heat their homes. The infrastructure for energy distribution would be strained as power grids struggle to keep up with the increased demand. Blackouts could become common, further complicating efforts to stay warm in an increasingly cold world. As the ice sheets advance, coastal cities and towns would be abandoned. Populations would migrate en masse toward the equator, seeking refuge in the remaining habitable zones. This mass migration could lead to overcrowding, resource scarcity, and conflict as people compete for the remaining livable space. So could humanity survive this new ice age? The answer depends on how quickly and effectively we could adapt. One possible solution would be to retreat underground. Subterranean cities could offer a stable, controlled environment where temperatures are kept constant and resources can be carefully managed. These underground facilities would need to be vast, capable of housing millions, if not billions of people. But living underground presents its own challenges, psychologically, socially, and logistically. Psychologically, the lack of sunlight and open spaces could take a toll on mental health. People might experience higher rates of depression and anxiety, and maintaining a sense of normalcy in such an environment would be difficult. Socially, living in close quarters for extended periods could lead to increased tensions and conflicts, requiring strong governance and conflict resolution mechanisms. Logistically, providing food, water, and energy for such large populations would be an enormous challenge. Advanced farming techniques like hydroponics and aquaponics could help sustain large populations. These methods allow crops to be grown in controlled environments using less water and space than traditional farming. In these underground cities, every square meter would be precious, and resource management would be key to survival. We might also develop massive, heated greenhouses in more temperate regions where crops could still be grown despite the cold outside. These greenhouses would need to be highly efficient, using artificial lighting and heating to replicate the conditions of a warmer Earth. The technology for such large-scale indoor farming exists today, but scaling it up to feed billions of people would be an unprecedented challenge. But these solutions would require enormous amounts of energy. Renewable sources like geothermal and nuclear power might become essential for survival. Geothermal energy, which harnesses heat from within the Earth, would be particularly valuable in an ice age, as it remains a consistent energy source even in extreme cold. Nuclear power, with its ability to generate vast amounts of energy without reliance on weather conditions, could also play a crucial role. However, the transition to these energy sources wouldn't be easy. Building the infrastructure required to generate, distribute, and maintain these power systems would be a massive undertaking, especially in a world where resources are already stretched thin. The social and political landscape would also undergo dramatic changes. With arable land and resources becoming scarce, nations might find themselves in conflict over the remaining habitable areas. In the past, conflicts have often been driven by competition for resources, and in a new ice age, this competition would be more intense than ever. The global economy, heavily reliant on agriculture and trade, would collapse. Industries that depend on global supply chains would struggle to function as transportation routes are disrupted by the advancing ice. Widespread poverty and instability could follow as millions lose their livelihoods and governments struggle to maintain order. However, such extreme conditions could also lead to unprecedented levels of cooperation between nations as they work together to survive. New alliances could form, and international efforts to share technology and resources might become the norm. Nations might pool their resources to develop new technologies or to create shared safe zones where populations can live and work together in relative safety. But these efforts could be hampered by desperation and mistrust. History shows us that in times of crisis, nations often turn inward, focusing on protecting their own interests rather than working together. In a world where survival is uncertain, the temptation to hoard resources and prioritize national security could lead to conflicts and a breakdown of international cooperation. An ice age would also reshape Earth's ecosystems in profound ways. Many species would struggle to survive in the colder climate, leading to mass extinctions. Animals that depend on specific temperature ranges or habitats might find themselves unable to adapt quickly enough to the changing conditions. However, some species like polar bears, seals, and other cold-adapted animals might thrive and expand their range into areas that were once too warm for them. These species could become the dominant forms of life in a frozen world while others disappear. Forests would be buried under snow and entire ecosystems could vanish. The vast boreal forests of Canada and Russia, which currently act as major carbon sinks, might disappear under ice, disrupting the global carbon cycle. With these forests gone, the planet's ability to absorb carbon dioxide would be reduced, potentially leading to further environmental changes. But, as life always does, some species would adapt and evolve to survive in this new environment, creating entirely new ecosystems in the process. New forms of life might emerge that are specifically adapted to the extreme cold, filling ecological niches that didn't exist before the Ice Age. Is there anything humanity could do to prevent an ice age from happening in the first place? Geoengineering or the deliberate manipulation of the Earth's climate might offer some solutions. While geoengineering is a controversial topic, some scientists believe it could be the key to preventing or mitigating the effects of an ice age. For instance, one proposed method involves injecting aerosols into the stratosphere to reflect sunlight away from Earth, mimicking the cooling effect of a volcanic eruption. This could help stabilize global temperatures, preventing the drastic cooling that leads to an ice age. Another approach could involve placing space-based reflectors or mirrors in orbit to increase the amount of sunlight reaching Earth's surface. This method, though ambitious and currently theoretical, could counteract the cooling effects that might trigger an ice age. However, these technologies come with significant risks and ethical concerns. Attempting to control the climate on a global scale could have unintended consequences, potentially disrupting weather patterns, altering ecosystems, or even triggering new environmental disasters. For example, injecting aerosols into the atmosphere might cool the planet, but it could also affect precipitation patterns, leading to droughts in some regions and flooding in others. Moreover, the long-term effects of such interventions are largely unknown. We could end up in a situation where the cure is worse than the disease. Additionally, there are geopolitical risks to consider. Climate engineering on this scale would likely require global cooperation, but what happens if nations disagree on how or when to deploy these technologies? Could climate intervention become a tool of power, with some nations using it to their advantage while others suffer the consequences? These are critical questions that would need to be addressed before any large-scale geoengineering project could be undertaken. Beyond the physical and environmental challenges, an ice age would have profound psychological and cultural impacts. Life in a world dominated by ice and snow would be starkly different from the world we know today. People would have to adjust to long, dark winters that last for most of the year. In many regions, the sun might not rise for months, leading to widespread seasonal affective disorder, depression, and other mental health issues. The lack of sunlight, combined with the harsh living conditions, could strain the human spirit and challenge our resilience. Culturally, the idea of home might shift dramatically. As large portions of the planet become uninhabitable, traditional homes and communities might be abandoned. People could end up living in modular, highly efficient dwellings designed for survival rather than comfort. This could lead to a loss of cultural identity as people are forced to leave behind the places and traditions that have defined their lives for generations. On the other hand, adversity has a way of bringing people together. In the face of a shared existential threat, we might see a resurgence of community spirit and cooperation. New forms of art, literature, and expression could emerge, reflecting the realities of life in a frozen world. The human capacity for creativity and adaptation might lead to unexpected cultural flourishes, even in the harshest of environments. Technological innovation would be essential for survival in an ice age. The development of new materials and construction methods that can withstand extreme cold would be crucial for building and maintaining infrastructure. Advances in energy generation and storage, such as more efficient geothermal and nuclear power, would help ensure that communities have access to reliable power sources. Transportation would also need to be reimagined. Traditional vehicles might struggle in icy conditions, leading to the development of new forms of transport designed specifically for frozen environments. Magnetic levitation trains, underground transit systems, or even drone-based delivery networks could become the norm in a world where roads and highways are buried under snow and ice. Agriculture would need to be revolutionized to sustain a growing population in a world with limited arable land. Indoor farming techniques, such as vertical farms that stack crops in layers within controlled environments, could help maximize food production. Genetic engineering might play a role in developing new crops that can grow in colder temperatures or in less than ideal conditions. The challenges of an ice age could also drive advances in space exploration. As Earth becomes more inhospitable, humanity might look to the stars for new opportunities. Colonizing other planets or moons could become a more urgent priority as a way to ensure the survival of the species. Technologies developed to survive in the extreme cold of an ice age could also be applied to living in the harsh environments of space. So, could we survive a second ice age? While the challenges would be immense, humanity has proven time and again that it can adapt to extreme conditions. Through cooperation, innovation, and sheer determination, we might find ways to thrive even in a world frozen over. But the question remains, would our civilization emerge from this ice age stronger, or would it crumble under the weight of the challenges ahead? Would the new technologies and social structures we develop make us more resilient, or would the pressures of survival tear us apart? Only time would tell. In the end, an ice age would force humanity to rethink everything, from how we live and work to how we relate to one another and to the planet itself. It would be a test of our ingenuity, our resilience, and our ability to come together in the face of unprecedented challenges. What do you think? Could we overcome the harsh realities of a new ice age, or is it a scenario too daunting to survive? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into the scenarios that could reshape our world. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.